Hello YouTube and welcome to Prime Productions. I'm here to help enhance your tabletop gaming experience. And welcome back to my continuing journey to show you all the changes in the new Player Core 2 book for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Of course, Player Core 2 is a massive update to Pathfinder 2, a tabletop role-playing game put out by Paizo. Last time we went over the classes, and today we're going to go over some of the changes to the Ancestries that were remastered in Player Core 2. Real quick, I do have a few things to get out of the way. First of all, please remember to be civil in the comments. I'm trying to cultivate an atmosphere of healthy, non-toxic discussion and debate here. For the most part, you guys have been absolutely great and have been a lot kinder than I would have thought possible for the internet, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Let's try to keep that going. Secondly, please remember, I'm just one guy doing this because I love it. I earn very little money doing this, and I certainly don't have a team to help me. It's just me by myself, reading, writing, recording, and editing, so I'm liable to make a mistake here or there or make a typo. I should not be your only source of Pathfinder information. I just want you guys to know I'm doing my best. Thirdly, just a quick reminder, I couldn't possibly go over all the Ancestry changes in Player Core 2. I'm just going to hit the highlights and some of the things that stood out to me. Now, before we get started with specific Ancestries, there will be some things that apply to all Ancestries as well as to the book itself. Remember that all the Ancestry lore feats have gotten a slight buff. This is across the board for all Ancestries. Now those feats grant the additional lore feat for their Ancestry lore instead of just training in the skill. So, whereas, say, Catfolk lore used to say that you became trained in Catfolk lore, now it says you gain the additional lore feat for Catfolk lore, which automatically gets better as you level up. This seems to be the case for all Ancestries, so I'm not going to go over that change for every Ancestry. One other change is weapon familiarity. How weapon familiarity works kinda changed in the remaster. It's better to say it was codified. How it works is that you can have familiarity in a weapon, which is different than training. If you have familiarity in a weapon, that means that if it is an advanced weapon, you treat it as a martial weapon, and if it's a martial weapon, you treat it as a simple weapon. Now, this was in Player Core 1, but it seems to be much more common in Player Core 2 as far as I can tell. Also, all Ancestry feats that are weapon familiarity feats, like, say, Catfolk weapon familiarity, also grant you critical specialization at level 5. That used to be a separate feat pre-remaster. Again, this seems to be a change across the board for all Ancestries. This isn't news, it's just something I'd mention here so I don't have to mention it with every Ancestry. Something else, a lot of the Advanced Player's Guide heritages and Ancestry feats were reprinted and updated here. However, heritages and feats from other books are more hit and miss as to if they were included. So there are some options from, say, the Ancestry Guide, but not all of the options from the Ancestry Guide were reprinted. I'm not going to go over every single missing heritage and Ancestry feat. Please note that if an option came from something like the Ancestry Guide and was not included here in Player Core 2, it is likely still viable, it's just not reprinted. One last thing, a lot of names changed due to legal shenanigans. I won't go over every single name change here. Just know that if, say, an old feat mentioned the spell Maze, it will now mention the new name of the spell, which is Quandary, so on and so forth. I'm not going to go over every minor detail like that, or we'd be here all day. Alright, diving right in with Catfolk or Amarun. Catfolk-based statistics seem to be largely unchanged. I didn't notice too many changes in the heritages either, other than the 9 lives Catfolk changed up how it works. Previously, if you went down from a crit, you went to dying 1, not dying 2. Now it just gives you the Die Hard feat, and you don't add the dying condition to recovery checks. Personally, I like the old version, it gave it some flavor, but the new version is fine, as Die Hard means you don't go to Pharasma's Boneyard until dying 5. New feat updates for Catfolk. The temporary hit points from the Catnap feat used to only last 10 minutes, now they last an hour. That's a good boost and might make it worth taking now, especially if you have a dungeon-focused campaign like Abomination Vaults. Catfolk weapon familiarity no longer includes the hatchet for some reason, and the well-groomed feat came down from being a level 9 feat to being level 5. Moving on to Hobgoblins, the base Hobgoblin lost the Goblin trait. I think Paizo just wants the Goblin trait to only apply to actual goblins now. Not many changes to the heritage. As for feats, the Alchemical Scholar feat now gives you the Alchemical Crafting skill feat for free. It didn't used to. Cantorian Reinforcement changed how it worked. Before, successes against diseases reduced that disease by 2 steps. Now it turns a saving throw against a disease into a critical success. It's pretty functionally similar, but that wording might have some knock-on effects. Let me know in the comments section below if you can think of anything. Leech Clipper became Leech Clip, and it is different. Instead of reducing an enemy's speed on a critical hit, it is now its own activity that reduces speed on a normal hit instead of a crit, though it does take 2 actions now. Kolo is the new name for Knoll, and I think that name change is from the legal shenanigans. Anyway, Kolo got 3 new heritages. Cave Kolo gets you Dark Vision. Dog Kolo lets you run on all 4s, which gives you a move speed of 30 if both of your hands are free. Then, of course, there is the Winter Kolo, which is the standard cold resist and make cold weather less bad for you. There is a new feat called Left Hand Blood. The blood in your left hand, specifically your left hand, is poisonous. Not sure how that works, but whatever. You can deal a point of damage to yourself to poison your weapon with your own blood, though it only deals a d4 persistent damage. I've mentioned this a couple of times, but kobolds changed significantly in their lore. Now instead of being innately draconic, they can, as eggs, absorb ambient magic, which can change them. This ambient magic can be from a dragon, but it can also be from other sources. This is why their bonus language is now Sakvroth, the new term for Undercommon, instead of the Draconic language. They also have a lot of their feats or ancestries renamed to reflect this change, but none of the mechanics changed. As for heritages, the old Dragon-Scaled Kobold became Elemental Heart Kobold. Dragon-Scaled is still there, but it is completely different now. Instead, it increases your ancestral HP to 10 and grants a +1 bonus to saves versus breath weapons, sleep, and paralysis. As for feats, Winglets was a feat that was ported over from the Ancestry Guide that increases the kobold's jump distance because you can, use the wings to help you glide. There is a second Winglets feat at level 9 that gives them pseudo-flight, but they have to land in between each fly action. There used to be a feat that gave them full-on flight at level 17, but that wasn't reprinted for some reason. I'm not sure why. Moving on to Lizard Folk or Urukshi. I didn't spot any major changes in their base statistics or their heritages. As for their ancestry feats, the Lizard Folk used to have 3 separate feats for natural attacks. That's been condensed down into 1 feat, and when you get it, you choose the natural attack you want. Gecko Grip no longer gives you a climb speed, just a bonus to climbing. However, it does give you a climb speed if you took the Cliff Scale Heritage, which is the one that gives you a bonus to climbing already. Similarly, Swift Swimmer only gives you a swim speed of 15, not 25, unless you have the Wetlands Heritage, in which case you get the full 25 move speed. The old feat used to give you a swim speed of 25. There is a buff to the Shed Tail feat. Previously, how it worked is that you could shed your tail to escape a grapple, but then you took penalties until your tail grew back, which took a week. Now it only takes a day to grow back, so that's nice. Rat Folks got a bit of a boost. Their base statistics now include a D4 bite, or technically a jaws attack. Not the best, but hey, it's free. I didn't notice much in the way of heritage changes, but there are a few feat changes. Tinkering Fingers used to remove the penalty for trying to repair something without a repair toolkit. Now it does that, plus you get a +1 circumstance bonus if you do have a repair toolkit. Notice that this is a circumstance bonus, so it stacks with the +1 item bonus for having a superior repair toolkit. Vicious Incisors now upgrades your base bite, jaws attack to a d6 and gives it the backstabber trait. Before it just gave you a d6 jaws attack without backstabber. The ancestry feat Ratfolk Growth is now renamed Greater Than the Sum and is flavored as you growing larger by calling on the power of your ancestors, but it does the same thing. The real big news is the 17th level ancestry feat Call the Swarm. This feat creates a 30-foot burst of rats that deal 6d8 initial damage and 3d8 damage each round thereafter for a minute. There is no attack roll and no save listed. I think this just happens. Also, the rats don't hurt you or your allies. If this isn't errated to have a save, this would be really great. Also, while the feat is called Call the Swarm, it isn't a swarm creature, so enemies can't, fireball to get rid of the rats. If you put this in a hallway and stick your tank at a choke point, this could be really good. Tangu! The base statistics and heritages remain mostly unchanged. The feat One Toad Hop was reduced from a 5th level feat down to a 1st level feat. Tangu weapon familiarity changed up a bit, and now it's really good. Before, you got to choose 2 weapons from a list and it was kinda confusing. Now it just gives you access to and gives you familiarity with the Karaka, which is that Shinto priest staff from anime, and several swords. The cool thing, though, is if you find a sword, at the start of the day you can practice with it and gain familiarity with it. So, if your Tengu Barbarian finds a Nodachi, they can practice with it at the start of the day and then treat it as a martial weapon instead of an advanced weapon. Or your Tengu Alchemist can practice with a longsword and treat it as a simple weapon. You can only have one of these temporary weapon familiarities going at any given time, but this is kind of what the 9th level Tengu feat Eclectic Sword Training used to do, and it's cool to see it now at 1st level. Also, the Tengu flying options got shuffled around a bit. Basically, you can now get a semi-fly speed at level 5, and at level 9 you can get a full-on permanent fly speed. Awakened animals can also get flying at level 9, and the Strix was errated to have this ability at level 9, so it's no surprise that the Tengu got it too. Gripply changed their names to Tripki. I think that's from the same legal shenanigans as the Gnolls/Kolo. Their base statistics now give them a +2 to athletics checks to climb. I thought Pathfinder moved away from this. I don't recall any other Ancestries that base give you a bonus to a skill, like without a heritage or a feat or something. Let me know if I'm wrong. We got 2 new Tripki heritages. Riverside Tripki has a swim speed of 15 feet, not sure why the frog people didn't have a swim option earlier. Also, the new Thick-Skin Tripki changes your starting HP to 8 and gives you a +1 to saves against diseases and poisons. There are a whole host of new Tripki ancestry feats, so let's run down them lightning round style. Croak Talker lets you talk with amphibians. Terrifying Croak lets you demoralize, and if successful, enemies can't reduce frightened below 1 for 1 round. Tripki weapon familiarity added dart to their list of weapons. The Fantastic Leaps feat now increases jump distance. Not sure why that wasn't a thing earlier. Prodigious Climber gives you a climb speed that gets better if you have the Sticky Toe heritage. Vomit Stomach lets you throw up toxins once a day, but it automatically reduces your sicken value by 2. No need to roll a saving throw. Moisture Bath is a once a day ability where you can attempt a DC 10 flat check to recover from persistent fire or cold damage and then gain fire and cold resist for a minute. Hop Up lets you stand up as a free action that doesn't trigger reactions. And Unbound Leaper lets you make 30-foot leaps in any direction, including straight up, and gets better with the Fantastic Leaper feat. Moving on to versatile heritages, I didn't notice too many differences for the Dampier or Duskwalker. Vanth's weapon familiarity, which used to be the ancestry weapon familiarity feat for Duskwalkers, is now just Duskwalker weapon familiarity feat. Also, I think there's a typo. Vanth's weapon familiarity used to work with bow staffs, and the remastered Duskwalker weapon familiarity instead grants you familiarity with the staff? Which isn't a thing. Like, there's a bow staff and a quarterstaff, but no just staff weapon. Staff is a type of magic item. Okay, so I've been holding it in, but the Dragonblood versatile heritage is kinda nuts. Now, of course, being a new versatile heritage, there's a lot of new feats, and I'm not going to go over all of them. Real quick, there are lineage feats for each of the 4 traditions of magic, because the new dragons match the new traditions of magic. There's also a series of feats to give you a permanent fly speed at level 9, and at level 17 you can cast the 8th level Draconic form once a day. Now, I did find one Dragonblood ancestry feat that is potentially problematic. I'll leave it up on screen now. I initially had a big spiel about how deceptively good it is, but I think that's a video for a different time. It might even get a day 1 errata, so I'll hold off on talking about it right now. I'll just say, as it stands, it is so good for monks it might be an automatic no-brainer pick. And I'm not fond of options that are essentially so good that they are no options at all. That's all I'll say on the matter for right now. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and while you're down there, make sure you hit like and subscribe. That tells not only me, but also YouTube that you like this kind of content and would like to see more. And until next time, thank you, good luck, and happy gaming!